Star Wars only, I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
At long last, we finally get to see what the Colin Trevorrows version of Star Wars Episode 9 would be like. Colin was the original director for the film. Due to the script problems and creative differences, he split with Lucasfilm, and then J.J. Abrams took his spot in late 2017. There's a lot to cover in this video, so buckle up because we now get to see another what-if scenario in the Star Wars universe, and how this version of Episode 9 would have done things differently. The first real script came from a filmmaker named Robert Mayer Burnett. He said the script was finished on December 16th, 2016, and I want you to note that this draft of the film was completed before the late great Carrie Fisher passed away in late 2016, and there's been at least 3 to 4 other news sites who have their own independent sources confirming the script details that we'll talk about today, as well as MakingStarWars.net, which revealed a final draft of Episode 9, which is the one that I'll be talking about today. So the title of Colin Trevorrow's Episode 9 is called Star Wars Duel of Fates. And it's an awesome name because it's, of course, a unique callback to Episode 1, the Phantom Menace song, which I assume is trying to be poetic in a way of the story going full circle. I more or less enjoy it. I think it's a better title than the Rise of Skywalker, but that's just me. The opening crawl goes like this. The iron grip of the First Order has spread to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Only a few scattered planets remain unoccupied. Traitors' acts are punishable by death. Determined to suffocate a growing unrest, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren has silenced all communications between neighboring systems. Led by General Leia Organa, the Resistance has planned a secret mission to prevent their annihilation and forge a path to freedom. Now, that's not a bad opening crawl. It's not the most exciting one either. Apparently, this isn't the same crawl in the final draft of the film, or in the final draft of the script at least, because the final one mentions that Kylo Ren is searching for dark side artifacts, and the Knights of Ren are hunting down Rey. So let's talk at first about the Resistance versus the First Order subplot, and then we can move on to the Force with Rey and Kylo Ren and whatnot later. So the basic plot is as follows. The transmission has been jammed and the Resistance can't communicate. Once the Friends steal a cache of weapons from the First Order, they prepare to attack the capital of the First Order once Rey goes to the Jedi Spire of Ossus, I believe is how you say it, and sends a message out to the galaxy to get them to join the fight. In the opening sequence, the Resistance steals a ship full of old Imperial weapons and vehicles. During this heist, Finn sees a fallen stormtrooper without his helmet, and he recognizes him, reigniting his internal conflict when it comes to killing his fellow brothers and sisters in arms. Finn, Rose, and the OT droids, which is R2-D2 and C-3PO, go to enemy-occupied Coruscant to activate an ancient beacon in the old Jedi Temple to call the galaxy to war. They succeed at first, but the message is cut off and they are captured. Finn is sent to a POW work camp, and Rose is interrogated by Hux. Now, in this version of Star Wars Episode 9 compared to The Rise of Skywalker, Hux was a villain, not a Resistance spy. There's a funny scene where he's alone and we see him trying to move a coin with the Force, envious of others who have this gift. When he tries to extract information from Rose's mind, he does the same thing that Kylo Ren was trying to do in The Force Awakens with Poe. In the end, he ends up killing himself with a lightsaber in some funny way, I guess. It's called Force Envy, is what Rose says that he has. He's envious of people who have the Force. But on to Finn. He's in the prison camp on Coruscant, and he connects with stormtroopers that are guarding him. And when he escapes the prison, the stormtrooper saves him, taking off his helmet like Finn once did. Others join, and this becomes Finn's army. So Finn leads a ground battle with the new stormtroopers that have turned against the First Order, and they're on the streets of Coruscant. It's now occupied by the First Order capital city, and so the Resistance joins in with the stolen Imperial vehicles, AT-STs, etc., painting their own revolutionary colors on them, and there's a simultaneously air battle above the city led by Poe, who is now the general of the Resistance, because as we all know, Leia probably passes away in this version. And also Lando. Don't forget Lando. His role was different. They find him operating a club for the First Order officers to drink at after hours, kind of like in the Clone Wars show where they have a bar for the clones. This is kind of what Lando's been up to, and he declines Poe's request for help at first, but then, like in Rise of Skywalker, he arrives with a people squadron from around the galaxy and saves the day and whatnot. But in the street battle, R2-D2, our hero and savior, is destroyed, and C-3PO puts R2's memory into BB-8, who has to race through the streets to get it to Rose, who needs the data to calibrate the capital ship's hyperdrive to fly directly into a star. As Han Solo warned was possible, the explosion is seen around the galaxy, acting as a beacon and calling people to revolution. I mean, honestly, this is a pretty basic subplot on destroying the First Order. I'm not really against it, but I don't love it either. What I do like about Colin Trevorrow's version so far compared to the Rise of Skywalker that we got from J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio is that the character arcs seem a little more fitting. I like Finn being a stormtrooper who left and he's now getting other stormtroopers to join the cause. It's making them feel a little more human, more humane, and just makes more sense in terms of his character. I feel like his character didn't do anything in The Rise of Skywalker. I think his arc was just kind of standing there. I like Hux being the villain. I love the idea of Finn being a symbol of change. And apparently, even in this version, Poe and Rey had a little bit of chemistry, like they had an attraction to each other. And I'm not going to get into that too much in this video because I don't really care personally. But that was also kind of, hey, all right, sure. And I don't like R2-D2 being destroyed, though. I think that could have been pulled off in an emotional way, but honestly, I'd rather him and C-3PO be the only ones who survive it all when everything is said and done, and I don't think it would have gone well with fans if they killed off R2. But now onto the real story of the dark side versus the light side, good versus evil, Rey versus Kylo Ren, because this is where the interesting stuff is at. So it starts off with Kylo Ren traveling to Morban to a Sith temple with ancient statues. Supreme Leader Snoke has him follow a message to find the hologram of Darth Plagueis. Luke shows up as a Force ghost to tell Kylo that this is the path to an empty hollow tomb, but of course Kylo doesn't listen. He opens the holocron, red force lightning actually, attacks Kylo and the damage spreads across his face. And I do like the idea in this one that apparently Luke has been haunting Kylo Ren throughout the film. He's a constant reminder, because if you remember in The Last Jedi where he says, you strike me down, I'm always going to be with you. And this is kind of Luke's role, is to constantly nag Kylo to say, hey, the dark side's not the way to go. And I like that. I believe later on that Kylo Ren goes to Vader's castle on Mustafar because the Emperor is seen as a hologram there in the beginning of the film, where he finds the hologram, Kylo Ren finds the Emperor's hologram, and it has a contingency plan left for Vader in the event that Palpatine was struck down by Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. And Palpatine's message tells Vader to send Luke to be trained by an ancient creature who is strong with the dark side. Here he will learn to extract the living force from crude matter. Mastering the skill will allow Kylo to absorb the living force from the heart of Mortis and achieving absolute power. And yes, Mortis is the planet from the Clone Wars. To find it and to stop Kylo, Rey, Poe, and Finn, and Chewie also go to a new planet that looks like a night market on mountains and water, kind of like Thailand apparently. And there's a similar scene to Badu Frick where they go to a tiny Force-sensitive alien who can read Rey's vision of Mortis and draw a map to it. So after the lightning that hits Kylo Ren when he goes to the Sith planet, apparently it keeps him on the verge of death, and there's like a group of Wommels or something that save him and take him to their cave. He's moved by their selflessness, but around this time Leia dies and she gives Rey a message and she fades away and becoming one with the Force. In the cave, though, Kylo can feel that his mother has passed, but the creatures that saved him calm him down and keep him from going ham on everybody, I guess. And he's in pretty bad shape. Apparently he's relying on droids to keep him alive in this version of the film, and he has purple scars and burns across his face. There's a character named Solani, I think, and she sees that Kylo found it, the MacGuffin, if you will, which is a Sith holocron, and it's a female that tells Kylo that since he and Rey are both pupils of Luke, he needs to sever the connection to clear his fate to the dark side. I didn't cover this later on in the video, but apparently she gets a Sith holocron herself, becomes really powerful with the dark side, and Rey has to kill her, or no, Kylo Ren kills her as she's about to kill Rey. It's not that great personally, but anyways. Rey reveals to Kylo that Leia asked her to end Kylo's pain. Luke gives her a lightsaber before he disappears, and he says that she won't be a Jedi until she faces Kylo. This kind of like Return of the Jedi in a sense. So Kylo trains under this new Sith creature that looks apparently like a dark side version of Yoda on a Mercury planet. Here he enters the Force Cave where he fights Darth Vader and he loses, which is his deepest fear. When he fully masters a new Force ability, he kills the Sith creature with his power, drawing the life from him. Kylo seems irredeemable at this point, and now he can of course achieve his goal on Mortis of draining the planet's force or whatever. And at this point, Rey has a new goal in the midpoint of the film. From the Jedi text, she learns of an old ancient form of communication before the Old Republic. It's called the Spire of Issus, I believe, and it's something that only a Jedi can enter. A Sith cannot use it, and Rey needs help finding it. And Poe knows of this guy who can help Jedi and uses it to find it or something. I don't know. The part gets confusing for me. But anywho, the Knights of Ren have names and force abilities, unlike in the Rise of Skywalker. Rey fights them on a night market planet on a moving structure of spaceship landing pads. In this sequence, it's revealed that Rey's parents, who in fact were nobodies, they keep to that from The Last Jedi, were killed by Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren. And this angers Rey so much that she shoots out force lightning and it kills one of the Knights of Ren, which is a pretty badass, but it brings her little course to the dark side. And in this confrontation on Mortis is where they kind of have their final battle, and they fight it out, and Kylo Ren blinds Rey, like I think he slashes her across the face or something, and leaves her to die on the step of the Mortis temple. And then we got some dialogue moments that I'll admit are pretty fucking awful. Rey says, "Our masters were wrong. I will not deny my anger. I will not reject my love. I am the darkness. I am the light." And Kylo Ren tells Rey, "You're nothing. You're no one." And then Rey ignites her lightsaber and says, "Oh God, no one is no one," before running at him, and the battle continues. That's pretty awful. That is just an awful line of dialogue and exchange, but whatever. Rey is now embracing the dark and the light side, and she gains a whole new level of power. She slashes at Kylo's hand, severs his fingers, and destroys his lightsaber. And they say that there's unfathomable living force within her. And however, earlier in the movie, Kylo had learned the unnatural ability to steal the living force from beings and starts to do that to Rey. She can't handle it, and Kylo's healing, and he's about to win. Just then, he hears the call of his mother, asking him to come home. Kylo gives in and gives Rey her life essence back, but in the process begins to die himself. In his last name, he reveals Rey's name, Rey Solona. And, okay, I mean, I don't know what that's supposed to mean something for anybody, but alright. When Kylo dies, he tells Rey her name, and he's dead. But Rey's alive, but just barely, and she then ascends to a higher plane of existence and encounters the Force ghosts of, yet again, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Luke. And yet this is where the dialogue really takes me out of the script in the film that pisses me off in a way. Yoda tells Rey, "Taught us much you have." Rey's confused, and Yoda says, "Succeed where we have failed. Narrow was our point of view." And Luke says, "You choose to embrace the dark side and the light to find the balance within. Coexist they must," is what Yoda says, "as such a feeling do in all of us." And basically, she wins because Kylo's dead, and the First Order's destroyed. And at the end of it all, Finn and her are like at Coruscant, and she's about to train a new generation of Jedi. And that is basically Duel of Fates, Star Wars Episode 9 by Colin Trevorrows. There's some things I like about it. There's some things I don't. I think the Mortis aspect is interesting. One thing I like about this version of the script compared to what we got with JJ is that when it comes to the Force, I feel like this explores the Force in a little bit different of a sense, where you go to Mortis, you can drain the life force from there and everything. The big thing with Mortis, though, is it's not a planet. It's not a place I think you can go find. I feel like it's something that kind of just finds you, and it would be really confusing to a lot of casual Star Wars fans who haven't seen the Clone Wars show to find out what this place actually is. And one of the reasons Mortis is so interesting is because you have the ones. They're basically like gods of the Force. You have the Father, the Son, and the daughter, and you have Abeloth, the Mother, who could have been mentioned in this, but obviously isn't. It's one of those things where if you're going to go to that planet, if you're going to go to that place, Mortis, you need to build on the religious aspects of it in a way, and the mythological aspects of Star Wars. And this kind of does that, but not entirely. I don't like Kylo Ren not being redeemed at the end of it all. I mean, it's not a bad idea with just killing him off, but it's just one of those things where it's like, yet again, Rey can do anything and everything. She loses at the end of this to Kylo, which is kind of a nice spin of things. But this doesn't feel like a sequel to The Last Jedi. It doesn't feel like a sequel to The Force Awakens much either. It feels like its own little independent version of Star Wars, a Star Wars adventure. And that's not bad per se, but It's a weird one. It's definitely weird, and I can see why Lucasfilm would look at this and say, "Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. This is a little too far out there." And I think a lot of fans would have been happier with this one, but I also feel like there'd be people who like the sequel films probably wouldn't have liked this as much simply because there's not a lot of fan service in this one per se, and it's very much of the doing it Colin Trevorrow's own way. And I like that. I like collaboration. I like each director having their own say in the trilogy, but this one's just it's out there, man. It's very much out there. I like Kylo Ren hunting down Sith artifacts. I like him being the supreme leader. I don't like having Palpatine return in the Rise of Skywalker because it makes absolutely no sense. I like Kylo Ren training with the new Sith guy. There's a lot I like about this script. There really is. It's just when it comes to the major plot points and story arcs that are basically crucial to the entire film. They're like the climax of the entire film that really kind of get under my skin that I don't agree with and don't like. I mean, Luke hunting, or not hunting, haunting Kylo Ren throughout the film is nice. I like that aspect of it. But then when Rey goes to a higher plane of existence, I would say it's probably like the netherworld of the Force. That's also interesting. But then you get Yoda telling her, "Oh, we've learned a lot from you, and you're basically right. You've been right this entire time. We're wrong." It's like, what the bro? The Jedi, like people, it seems like every Star Wars film except for the original trilogy has made the Jedi stupid idiots who can do nothing right, and they're always wrong. Like they're just wrong, and it's one of those things where I don't think you can be. I look at this from a morality standpoint, where Yoda's like, "Oh, we gotta, embrace the darkness within us and find balance." No, wouldn't the idea be to reject the darkness? Isn't that in kind of the entire point of Return of the Jedi, where Luke becomes the Jedi, where he rejects the darkness that is overcoming him when he defeats his father, and he rejects the darkness of the Emperor? Was he supposed to be like, "Well, I'll kill my father and I'll take half of the Emperor's saying, and then I'll take half of what Yoda was saying and find the middle"? It's just one of those things where it's like, where are we taking our lessons from here? Is there any story in this where I come back with a new perspective of the Force, other than, oh, I gotta be a dark side user and a light side user? I don't like that. No, if you're gonna master the light side, you need to reject the dark side. If you're gonna master the dark side, you need to reject the light side. It just seems yet again kind of Mary Sue like that Rey is just, oh, she's the best, and Yoda's telling her, "You were right, sweetheart. I'm 900 and some years old, and even in death, I'm aging, but you were right. We were all wrong, Rey. You are right." That doesn't rub me right, man. That makes me really annoyed with kind of the outcome in this film. So it's one of those things where if this film happened, Duel of Fates, Episode 9 by Colin Trevorrow, written by Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly, directed by Colin Trevorrow, if this happened, I'd probably leave the theater the same way I left for Rise of Skywalker, where it's like, I would like more about this script in terms of characters like Finn and Hux and Poe, and the cool mythological aspect of it, of going to Mortis and draining life if you're a Sith user and whatnot, and going to the Netherworld and these Force ghosts coming back because they're on Mortis. There's aspects of that I truly do enjoy and would find a lot more interesting than anything we had in the Rise of Skywalker. But on the other hand, the lessons we take away from this, the major plot points of, R2D2 dies, Leia passing away was kind of expected, but Rey being better than basically everybody ever, even though she's a nobody, it's just kind of like, and even the lines that they were saying, "No one is no one." There's some pretty bad writing in this when it comes to dialogue, and I can understand why Lucasfilm brought in Jack Thorne, who was supposed to kind of fix the script, and of course that didn't work out too well back in 2017, to kind of hopefully fix the lines of dialogue. I really don't know. Really weird turn of events on how this film could have gone. I will say I'm happy we got this information, though. I've been saying for a while, I've always wanted to know how Colin Trevorrow would have done his version of Episode 9, and I feel like we have closure now. Even if it didn't happen, it's nice just to know. I know some people have been kind of critical of the script being leaked and everything, and they're saying, so what? Like, it's not going to happen, so what's the point? For me, the point is we're getting closure. We're getting what could have been if he had made Episode 9. And for me as a Star Wars fan, it gives me a little bit of peace of mind of saying, you know what, despite everything with the sequel trilogy, if this version had happened, I probably wouldn't have been that happy with it either way, and I probably would have left the theater going, I still have no idea what the entire point of this sequel trilogy was. I mean, even after reading the script, it's like, well, Okay, what was the point? What's the story here? What's the lesson? And we can read the script all we want, but the execution of the film would be a lot different as well. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But tell me your thoughts below. What did you guys think about Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly's script of Star Wars Episode 9, Duel of Fates? It is a Star Wars Episode 9 that could have been. I'd love to hear your thoughts below. I'm Star Wars Only. Hope you guys enjoyed this long video. And leave your comments and thoughts below. I'll check them in the comments section. I'm Star Wars Only. I'll see you all next time. And may the Force be with you always.